First of all, thank you for being here today. I understand that my announcement yesterday has generated a lot of interest and desire for additional information, so I'm here to honor that desire, even as I'm not at liberty to share confidential information regarding employees. Let me first say that when one decides to let go with cause of a long-term employee, it is never a decision that one makes as a single factor, on a single factor. Certainly, the Department of Justice reports caused me pause, and it made me look holistically at many documents and at what our priorities are with regards to student and student athletes in particular. As a former athlete and coach, and as a parent and grandparent, I also had to consider my experiences in the context highlighted by the document. My assessment was that NMSU needed a change because it has been 2.5 years that we have been embroiled in controversy with athletics. If we want to excel, NMSU shouldn't aim to comply with laws, rules, and duties. We need to do better. My goal now is to move quickly to implement many of the recommendations in the report. Acting AD Burdge and Dean of Students Ann Goodman have been very good and excellent in making progress. So my hope is that now that Dr. Burdge is in the leadership role, we can collaborate on a speedier implementation of best practices for the university and for the athletic department. Finally, I want to commend the athletic staff. I met with them yesterday and conveyed my continued support for their efforts, for the athletes, and for their success. And given the successful start of both basketball teams in conference play, I have to commend everybody for ensuring we focus on the competition. One more point as I cede the microphone to AD Burdge. I am not seeking to start an AD search at this time. I have real confidence in Dr. Burdge, and she and I will reassess where we are in 6 months' time moving forward. Thank you. That's my statement, and I'm passing on to Dr. Burdge.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank Mario Mocha for bringing me here and giving me an opportunity to become a part of Aggie Nation. I'd like to thank President Ferme, Chairwoman Devastali, and the board for their trust and belief in me. This is not a time for a break, and we as an athletic department will continue moving forward. We owe that to our student athletes, our coaches, and our staff. We've made tremendous strides toward building a culture within the athletic department and on this campus that you can be proud of. And I am confident that we will continue to build on that culture moving forward. I know my values, and I know my standards, and I'm not going to shy away from those. Both President Ferme and I are in alignment on this. There can be insecurity during a time of transition, but in my over 17 years of administrative experience, I've seen an awful lot of change in college athletics. Change is constant. As a change agent who excels at building, I can assure you that my whole focus is on moving this athletic department forward and providing the support our student athletes, our coaches, and our staff need to have an outstanding experience here at New Mexico State University. Thank you.
We'll go ahead and open it up for questions. We don't have all day, but we want to make sure we provide an opportunity. Who'd like to go first? Go ahead, Nick.
This is for the round. I was wondering, history is your first thing out of this history of the first lady was always once more emotional and has been given her reasons for termination, maybe under pressure, or the state government to make a decision, she made this decision all.
Yeah, so let me answer the last part first. This is a decision that I made. The document came out the 18th or the 19th of December. I spent a couple of weeks looking at it, and obviously during that time I also looked at other documents, but that was a decision that I made based on my reading of these materials. So I've had no contact with government during that period, from or any pressure from anybody at that point. And
you.
And maybe for both you, be closer.
Yeah.
I am honored that President Ferme felt confident in me to step forward and fulfill the responsibilities of an athletic director, and I will fulfill the full responsibilities of the acting athletic director. That's what I will be doing, is acting as the athletic director. And 100% of my focus will be on supporting our coaches and our staff so that they're able to provide the student athletes an excellent experience here.
Go ahead. Johnny?
This is for President Ferme. My question was mentioned in your opening statement that you would be letting the budget go for cause on some signed a year contract and former President I was wondering how much of that contract is the university hoping to the rest of it, or is there some sort of payout, like how much?
Yeah, so at this point, you know, when we release someone with cause, there are parts of the contract that actually detail what that is. But I mean, and since that is kind of personnel files, I'm not free to answer that question. We'll see what the next couple of weeks bring in terms of anything that develops on these things. But we are not providing a buyout at this point.
Go ahead.
No, that was a decision that I made. Mario did not participate in that decision.
Go ahead, Justin.
Just to follow up on the contract question, you said we'll see in the next couple of weeks. Can you just describe what are some of the things that have to happen?
Well, I mean, I can't predict what other people do when these things happen. I mean, I know what a termination or a lease with cause means according to the contract. And again, I'm not free to tell you what is in the contract. But you know, again, I can't predict what other people will do on this stuff.
Just a quick follow-up on something else you said. You said you hadn't received any calls from the governor's office regarding any pressure to make this decision. Is that in recent days, or is that during the entire last couple of
So if I can be, I've been in New Mexico for 2 months. I have never met or spoken or had any communication with the governor.
or anyone in their office?
So when I was in Santa Fe, I actually met with the Secretary of Higher Education. The only communication that I've had with her as a courtesy call was 2 days ago to just let her know of my decision. She did not have any input on any of those conversations.
Go ahead.
This is a question for Anthony, but moving forward, what would you say the plans are for the athletic program, especially considering we're just in this cloud over the summertime? What would you say your mindset is moving forward, your aspirations?
Thank you. That's a big question. It's not one that I'm actually prepared to answer yet, as I've just stepped into this role yesterday, and it was quite a surprise. So I do need a little bit of time, but one thing that I will say is that we'll continue with the forward momentum that we have built, and that includes supporting everyone that I've mentioned before in terms of our student athletes, our coaches, and our staff.
Follow up on that, I'm sure you're aware of the incidents that have taken place here. Obviously, you just said that you're getting familiar with the area and things want to move forward or something like that. What would you say there is a plan in place, there's things to do, and maybe that's a question for you both.
Yeah, I think actually, I mean, I probably am the more recent person. So, I mean, I actually want to say that AD Burdge has been leading some of the responses that we have on the hazing incident. So she's much more into it. I can tell you one thing. One of the things that we want to do is start responding to some of the requests that the document made. Among them, for example, is the hiring of a director for the anti-hazing efforts at the university. So that's going to be one of our first moves, is to do that and provide them with a budget to start doing programming that will continue to enhance what we're already doing. I think it does require additional resources there. We've also approved 2 positions to help with the Office of Institutional Equity with regards to the Title IX and sexual misconducts or any other reporting, because they have very heavy caseloads. So those are things that we're trying to do. And I will let A.D. Burdge talk about some of the things that she's done with Stop Hazing, et cetera, et cetera. So, go ahead.
So we have put together a great deal of programming. We've worked very closely with campus and Dr. Goodman, our Dean of Students. So we'll continue all of those efforts because we're in year 2 of our membership with the consortium. So we've just finished our campus culture survey, and we're going to begin to evaluate what we have received from that survey, and then that will inform our next steps moving forward.
Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of different things, but in terms of recommendations and all that, do you guys have a timeline in mind to evolve those recommendations? Or is it just not saying?
So it's hard to, so I will be both forthcoming, and it's difficult to sort of say how long some of these things take, because if you look at the report, there's also some suggestion that we have overlaps, where things that we do somewhere that could be actually sort of brought together in a different place. Certainly we want to start with a couple of obvious ones, which are, for example, the hiring of this director for anti-hazing, the adding of support staff for the Office of Institutional Equity. Also, the Office of Institutional Equity is going to report to the Chief of Staff in my executive, so that we're moving it closer to the President in some ways. But it takes time to actually evaluate, once we hire the director, for example, of anti-hazing, we're going to be able to talk with that person about what steps that person thinks are the most important to conduct. I certainly want, as I said, we want to reevaluate, and we'll be reevaluating on a consistent basis on that.
And then as a follow-up too, I mean, you mentioned it wasn't just one thing and it wasn't just the report and all that. What in the report made it clear to you that change needed to be made?
Well, those are difficult questions to answer, because there is some privacy also in the conversation that is going to ensue, I'm sure, on some of these things, and it's personnel matters. But I do think that, from my perspective, is, we want to be able to have back and forth commitment at all levels at all times. And I'm not sure that the document showed that that was happening all the time.
Go ahead, Nick.
Given that this is your reason for discrimination laws, is this reputation thing that you didn't what is the reputation? So you have what is the simple, what do you want to see, so what director that you want to see and what basis and all that. That's that question as well, to try and improve it.
So I don't know that, you want to cleanse the reputation. I mean, I want to say 2 things. The report certainly was a big factor, but I mean, once you start reading the report, you also start looking at all the other stuff that is surrounding the report. From my perspective, you have to have a little bit of humility as an institution to say, let's look at what happened, let's take responsibility for some of it, let's see what we're doing well, let's see what we're not doing, and then having the courage to say, oh, you know what, we really need to move forward. So from my perspective, I think, it's more about thinking about the excellence of this institution. I want it to be excellent. I want to get to the next level of performance. And I think we really need to take all of these things, whether they are this stuff in athletics, whether it is in academics, whether it is our R1 status, and say, what is the next level that we can achieve by working together? I'm really strong about team. And so if we can be a team, how do we do the best that we can to move this institution into an excellent state? I mean, I wouldn't have taken the job if I didn't think that the institution can be better. Okay, so that's really, maybe answering indirectly your question. I do want to be better. I think we've had levels of excellence throughout the history of this institution that are peaks that we want to get back to. But if we can do it across the board, that's really my goal.
And what characteristics are maybe one of to try and beat all of these, just describe it well national search.
So that's an excellent question. I mean, I have 3 things that I really value, okay? One is hard work. The other one is humility, and the third one is teamwork. So those three things for me are essential in the people that I want to lead with me at this institution. So, you know, that's the kind of stuff that we want to be working on. I don't know if it gives you enough of an impression of what I want.
We try to get to a national socialist.
Well, as I said, you know what? Dr. Burdge has my confidence. In 6 months, I want to see where we're at. You know, she owns the position right now.
What are your goals in the next 6 months to people that want to really just describe what you want for your next 6 months?
You know, obviously, we want to strive for excellence. That's what we've been striving for in all of the programs that we've got. Our coaches and our student athletes have been phenomenal at community engagement in our academic pursuits for excellence, on the field, on the court. And so those are the things that we're going to continue to strive for and continue to do well in. And I believe that if we get those things taken care of, then we can begin to look further down the road.
Go ahead, Jason.
Dr. Ferme, can you just, this is more of a broad question, can you describe kind of your outlook for collegiate athletics and your experience, and now that you're here, how do you see your role, like, growing this particular athletic department, and like you said, trying to get something to the next level?
It's, again, a very good question, because as you know, intercollegiate athletics right now are in flux. There's massive change happening. You know, we are still trying to deal with the aftermath of, you know, the cases that are being litigated with the NCAA. I think, you know, from my perspective, and the transfers, you know, transfer portals, I mean, it makes it very difficult for coaches. I mean, I have a lot of admiration for coaches these days, because every year they have to, like, rebuild a team, which is, in some ways, it's great as a coach. I mean, you have a new team, you have new players, you have new things going on. But on the other hand, it makes it very difficult, you know, and there's more and more money that is being poured in athletics, and there's always this push and, you know, this push and pull with how much money does athletics need to perform at a certain level, and how much money are you taking away from the academics if you're doing things in athletics. Again, because I want to work as a team, we're going to face these questions together. I don't have all the answers. You know, obviously, I mean, I did talk with the commissioner for Conference USA yesterday. I'm looking forward to meeting with the rest of the athletic directors and presidents in a couple of weeks. But really, it's an evolution. I'm trying to get a handle on some of the things. I mean, even now, even a couple of days ago, right, some of the decisions are coming out. What is the impact in terms of money for us, for them, for everybody else? Realignment continues to make things very difficult. I think it requires patience in some ways, not trying to do everything at once. And as I said, I will consult with my team, and I will rely heavily on them to help me deal with these matters. So,
Go ahead, Sean. And just a few more after this.
You just, a couple questions ago, you alluded to the other documents or things around the report that you reviewed as well. What do you mean by that? What were those kind of things?
I mean, you know, I'm not, I mean, among the documents that one sees everything that has happened in the last 2.5 years, okay? So, and there's a lot of stuff that is in the public sphere that one can access, and there's also stuff that is in the private sphere that one can access. So there's documents that have been both produced during some of the things that have happened, and then there are things that, for example, were commissioned as a response to those. So I spent a lot of time looking at everything that I could to actually get a better sense of what was happening. So again, you know, you can imagine some of the documents, some of them were videos, some of them were reports, some of them were documents that were prepared by the university, by non-university agents, et cetera, et cetera. So that's really what I did.
Just a couple more, and it's, Nick, we've gotten to already a bunch. Go ahead.
So a question for both of you guys. First off, did you have any idea that this was going to happen, that you were going to make this decision back in September and October, or was this a decision that you made after the document?
So to be maybe naive, no, because I didn't even know at the time that there was an investigation by the Department of Justice that would have actually kind of spurred a resurgence of some of these issues. I mean, certainly I was aware in September that there had been another couple of there was another incident that happened with the university. And, I mean, you're not naive when you're applying for a job. You obviously read these things. But no, I didn't have, I mean, my goal was really to come in and assess and get a sense of it, day one, do I really want to do that? No. But I also thought that this was something that I think, in good spirit, I feel needed to be done at this point.
One more. Sammy, we have another.
Just in terms of the decision weighing in Mario's success that he's led New Mexico State, did it make it maybe a difficult decision to make, or just talking through your process in terms of looking at both sides?
Yeah, I mean, I want to be empathetic to people, okay? And the reality is that, these decisions are not easy decisions. No one wants to come in and say, hey, this is what I want to do on day one of my job. I think Mario has done a lot for the university. I think, and so I want to acknowledge that. I also think that there are certain standards that I feel are important from my perspective of how I want to lead a university, that I want to see exemplified in the people that work with me. And it has nothing to do with, some of them were just operative standards that I just don't think we were paying attention to for a long time. And so, I mean, I think it's never comfortable to do something like this, but I do think that it was the right thing to do at this stage.
Okay, thanks, everybody. We appreciate you coming out this morning.
Thank you. And thank you again. I appreciate your interest and your time.